evening, everybody, and happy Tuesday. It is roughly 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are right now on Broome Street, very close to Delancey Street. And tonight we are going to be commuting back to not Grand Central Station, but the Moynihan train station to get the Long Island Railroad. So I hope everybody's having a good start to the week. And we will get started in just a minute. Soho Guy is here. I see Otto says hi, Tom's greeting. Andrew Lee is here from Queens. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be a short stream tonight because I do have to make the train. Andrew says, enjoy the walk. Thank you, Andrew Lee. Appreciate it. Sunshine after rain is here. I see you. Brooklyn says, hey, Tom. Hunter Butler is here. Vinny Castellano, as always, says, good evening, Tom. And Ken Kramer. What's up, Ken? So we are downtown in Broome Street. Very cool area. Love this area. I haven't been down here in quite a while. So it's good to get back to an old neighborhood in New York City that I haven't been to. But we will get started. Hey, Solo 401 is here. Says the empty station too simplistic. What's up, Solo? So we are here on the corner of Allen Street and Broome. Very cool neighborhood down here. Sunshine After Rain says hello, everybody, and welcome. Ice says hi, Tom. What's up, Ice? Silvero says hello, everybody. Hunter Butler says, what time is the train, Tom? Hunter, I believe the train is in like an hour and a half. So we have about an hour and a half. Solo 401 says, what's up? Hope you're well, Solo. Dante Rose says, hey, Tom, I believe the colors you saw on the Empire State Building was our flag, and Rihanna is now a national hero, says Dante Rose. So, Dante, I thought it was for the Hanukkah holiday. It is now a big Jewish holiday, so happy Hanukkah to everybody. Hope you're enjoying it with your family, but I did hear about that. So, Rihanna is now a national hero. Very cool. Dante Rose, good to see you. Maya is here. What's up, Maya? Charlie Richardson says hi, Tom. What's up, Charlie? Hope you're well. Now, the vibe of the area down here is always really cool. So maybe we'll take a quick walk through some of the streets. You'll see a lot of the outdoor dining setups here. Very cool. Hey, Valentina says, good night, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Right back at you, Valentina. Ice says, are you flying back to Miami tonight? Not tonight, Ice, but I am flying back tomorrow. Everybody, we have Cecilia Thomas here. Good to see you, Cecilia Thomas, as always. Michelle Cunningham. Gigi NYC says hi, Tom, everybody. Gigi, long time no see. Good to have you here. Buy the book says hey, Tom. So everybody, we had a broad stock market sell-off today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all sold off in short order today. But to keep things in a little bit of perspective here, all major equity indices sit well above their 50-day moving average. So usually whenever we head into a correction environment, usually the first stop, I should say, where major indices find some sort of support or institutional buying is that 50-day moving average. So we are still well above those levels. So that is definitely the first stop that I'm looking for these indices to come down. I think that would be quite healthy overall. Soho Guy says, yo, Tom, celebrities are not heroes, cops are, says Soho Guy. Indeed, Soho. The Zara 7 says, hello from Arica, Chile. Love you streaming. Welcome, everybody from Chile. I see Penelope says, evening, Tom, and everybody. Penelope is joining us from Tennessee. So welcome, Penelope. This is a pretty cool wall over here. A lot of art in this area. Very cool. Cosmo, I hope you're well. HXNTR says, hello, Tom. Hunter from Houston. How was your dinner? My dinner was very good today. Cecilia Thomas, good to see you. Ken Kramer says, I'm buying the dips, is Ken. Yeah, so Ken, one of the things that I wanted to discuss in relation to sort of the stock market sell-off is the main thing that I'm seeing is, even though the indices are selling off a little bit, the one thing that is telling me that this dip will be bought is if we look at the 10-year yield. The 10-year yield actually came down again today. So that's telling me that this dip will probably be bought. But we heard from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. And I think that's very important because, as you know, I always say it's important to watch what the Federal Reserve is doing, not so much listening to what they're saying. And one of the things, though, that Fed Chair Jerome Powell did say today is that we should be able to retire the word transitory when talking about inflation. And this is something me and you and everybody on the channel has been talking about ad nauseum, that inflation is not going to be transitory, as the Fed chair was saying. So we were on the right side of this. We know that inflation is not going to be transitory. So one of the comments that Jerome Powell made today is that they may need to start tapering sooner than expected and may need to raise interest rates sooner than expected. And the markets did not like that. The market sold off in short order today. But if we really whittle down and narrow down the stocks that sold off the most, they were the extremely high beta, high growth stocks that traded extremely high multiples. So one of the things that I think the market is trying to do is price in an interest rate hike. Because as we know, when rates move up, what tends to happen is very high beta growth stocks, mainly tech stocks, SaaS stocks, software as a service stocks, these are the stocks that tend to get dumped first. Because as interest rates move up, if we take into consideration that the majority of these companies' earnings are forecasted out into the future, when interest rates move up, their earnings are now worth less in the future today. So I think the market is sort of pricing in another rate hike. We'll see. But since that 10-year yield was flat to actually negative today, I do think by and large this dip will be bought. And to keep things into perspective, we're not even 5% off all-time record highs in the major indices, right? So if you're looking at the major indices, the Dow Jones, the S&P, and the NASDAQ, we're still spitting distance between record highs. Hunter Butler says that area looks sketchy, Tom. Yeah, so this is the Lower East Side, and we are actually headed towards the Williamsburg bridge here. I think we skateboarded over this bridge a bunch of times in the summer. But good to see you, Hunter Butler. Ken Kramer says you're correct. What's up, Ken? Good to see you. So it's back to work. Hope everybody had a good holiday. But we still do have a major holiday going on, Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah to everybody who celebrates. Jonathan Richards says, hi, Tom. Just in case Ethereum says, are you near the Bowery? Relatively close to the Bowery. It's in short walking distance. Hunter says, what's for dinner, Tom? I had some soup tonight. I had some soup. What about you, Hunter? Sunshine after rain, good to see you. Hope you're well. Jonathan Richards is here. What's up, Jonathan? Soho guy says, yo, Tom, very cool art on the wall. Valentina says, it started to snow yesterday, I guess just a little bit. Yeah, it was snowing yesterday. Indeed it was. Pickles72 Aaron B says, hi, I finally got your weekly newsletter by subscribing through email as my tablet doesn't let me view it. Thank you. Hey, thank you for subscribing to the free newsletter. So I was having some technical difficulties. So the newsletter actually got sent out via email to everybody, I believe at 12 o'clock this afternoon. Believe at 12 o'clock. So thank you for signing up. Hopefully you enjoy the content. RJ, what's going on, RJ? Good to see you. I want to show you guys this building across the street. Very unique and modern. These two buildings right here. Very cool. I see British Gray. What's going on, British Gray? British Gray is joining us from Tampa, Florida. Santa Monica Rodriguez is here, as well as Sally. What's going on? RJ says, Olaf from Colorado. Hope you're well. The ABX girl is our pal from the Bronx. Always good to see you, the ABX girl. Good to see you. Happy Tuesday, everybody. So very unique and interesting architecture here. Right on Delancey Street. Ren 1018 says, what's up, Tom? What's up, Ren 1018? I hope you're well. And the bridge is right here, guys. So Delancey goes all the way to the bridge. By the Books is cool buildings. Andrea Bryant says, hi from Somerville, Massachusetts. Welcome, Andrea. Peter Webley says, 65 degrees in Los Angeles. Yeah, so it's pretty cold here tonight. Not as cold as last night. It was actually snowing a little bit yesterday. Otto says, Tom, should bank stocks benefit from an interest rate hike? They should. So in theory, they should. But the main thing that I think that's contingent on the health of the financial sector is crude oil. So when you have crude oil down and you have interest rates down, that is bad news for the financial sector. Usually when you see crude oil getting a big bid and interest rates going up, that's very good for financials. Very good. But over the past 2 trading sessions, we've been seeing crude oil get absolutely clocked. So I'm looking for some sort of event, usually, and not to be Mr. Conspiracy here, but usually whenever we have crude oil selling off like this in a very, very drastic way, you usually hear about some sort of oil refinery airstrike or terrorist attack across the country on a major, oil refinery or something like that, which tends to boost the price of crude. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but every single time crude takes a hit, there's always some sort of attack on a refinery or some sort of bottleneck or a ship that's wedged in the canal or something like that. Without fail. RL says AMBA and ZS up. Yeah, so Zscaler is a cybersecurity company that reported earnings today. And I was writing about this in my Behind the Street newsletter that I just published for everybody. So this week is cybersecurity earnings week. We have Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS, CrowdStrike, and Okta, all reporting earnings after the bell today. Mars SoCal says, hi, how safe is it to travel to New York City right now? I'm thinking of going for Christmas time. It's very safe. Very safe. You should definitely come for Christmas. The NYPD is the best police force in the entire world, so definitely you should come. Enrique is here. Edson says, where are we? We're at Delancey Street in the Lower East Side. Right on the corner of Delancey and Suffolk Street. But now we're going to make a left and head uptown to the Moynihan train station. But good to see everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Tuesday. Flex Stream says, RIP Cuomo, CNN career is dead. Yeah, so I was hearing a lot of stuff about that today. Flex Stream. Enrique, good to see you. Sally says, beautiful night, Tom. Soho guy says, yo, Tom, that attack on refineries are probably for orders from the Vatican. Never know. Maria is here from Sao Paulo, Brazil. What's up, Maria? Williamsburg Bridge, indeed. RL says, are we in Florida? Not yet. JPEG 43 says, which bridge? So the Delancey Street goes right to the Williamsburg Bridge. And we've skateboarded over that bridge many times in the summer on the stream. Hey, I see Marty Lewis in the chat. Welcome, Marty Lewis. Always good to have you on the stream. And I see Bowser, too. Happy Tuesday, Bowser. Bowser says, hey there, Tom. Sarah G says, I saw your post. What's your that's your newsletter, right? I really enjoyed it. Great summary while also making everything clear. Well, thank you, Sarah G. I appreciate it. So the Behind the Street newsletter will no longer be uploaded to YouTube because it is too long and YouTube limits us to 5,000 characters. So if you want to receive the newsletter, if you click the link in the description, it will bring you to a page where you can put in your email address. and it'll send you an email with the newsletter every single week. Steve Richards says hello all the way from upstate New York. Steve, what part of upstate New York are you coming from? Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo? Please let us know. Savi is here, says good night, Tom and everybody. What's up, Savi? Kevin from Buffalo says great to see you on earlier. I get up at 5 a.m., so I usually watch you the next day. It was good to see you back in New York City for the holidays. Awesome, Kevin. Yeah, so Kevin actually traveled to New York, spent Thanksgiving in the city. So hope you had a good time, Kevin, in New York City for Thanksgiving. Ah, Steve Richards is near Watertown, New York. That's way upstate. You guys get a lot of snow up there. Very cool. Hey, Penelope says Josephine Baker became the first black woman honored at the Pantheon in Paris today. Famous dancer, spy, and pilot against the Nazis and civil rights activist. Very cool. I did not know that. Thank you for letting us know. Geo says, hey Tom, ZI Zoom info down big today. Yes. So Geo, all the major high beta, high growth stocks are down big, down extremely big. And I think one of the reasons for that is because the market, as the Federal Reserve is signaling rate hikes, the market is trying to price in a rate hike by dumping very high PE, high beta names. So high beta, really the only thing that means is they tend to be more volatile than the underlying S&P 500, right? So they have bigger moves. So when you have a rising interest rate environment, usually the stocks that are high growth tech stocks that have extremely high PE ratios and high multiples, usually these are the stocks that get marked down first. And one of the reasons for that is because a lot of tech stocks, especially the software as a service companies, are projected to have the majority of their earnings out into the future, or 3 or 4 years out. So when interest rates are rising, their earnings are now worth less in the future in today's dollars, if that makes sense. So you're always going to have a little bit of a re-ration in that. But I do believe that this dip will be bought. Because if we paid attention to the price action today, the 10-year yield actually came down a little bit throughout the day. So I still think this is a normal correction in the market. Dressing, as it's called in the industry, and profit taking going into the end of the year, as well as tax loss selling. So hopefully the major indices will find some support around the 50-day moving average. Then we could sort of build a basing pattern and then move higher into the end of the year for the traditional Santa Claus rally. So we'll see. I could be wrong, but that is my overall thesis. JPEG 43 says no boarding tonight, on foot. Yeah, we're on foot tonight. We are on foot tonight. Hey, Faith is here. Steve Richards is here. Sarah G says, yes, Matterport was down too. Deborah S says, did anybody watch the Barbados ceremonies? I didn't, but I heard about it. Somebody in the chat just told us about it. Seems pretty cool. Obama is here, says Williamsburg Bridge. Yellow Bruss says, how far is Katz from here? Katz is only a couple blocks down, actually. Katz's Deli, very famous deli. One of the best delis in the city. The Mighty Bull says, greetings, Tom and everybody. What's up, Mighty Bull? Brittany McMurdy says, New York looks beautiful as always. Good to see you, Brittany McMurdy. Hey, EBITDA is here, says, hey, Tom, hope all is well. Nothing like getting kicked in the nuts all day, the market being red. Yes, EBITDA. And especially, EBITDA, the very high growth tech stocks sold off a lot. But judging by the action in the bond market, I do think that this dip is going to be bought in a very, very big way. And I also think the dip in crude oil will be bought in a very, very big way. Menino Rodriguez says, Are you from Sri Lanka? Close. I'm from Massapequa. Ren 10 says, Tom, ever need to use bathroom when you're doing the stream? Not yet. Andreas is on foot, no skateboard tonight. Yes, no skateboard tonight. Geo says, good brief. It's good company, has good EPS. Yeah, so it does, but it does trade at a very, very high multiple. So a lot of these growth stocks, especially, you think about a Zscaler or a CrowdStrike, which reported earnings today, these are actually up a little bit after the bell. Usually when you have the market scared about rising rates, these are the first stocks to go down. Hunter says, what mount are you using, Tom? We are using an iPhone 11. Sarah G says, I think it'll be a couple of years still, 2026 maybe, guessing for fun. The Mighty Bull says, greetings, Tom, and everybody in the room. Good to see you, the Mighty Bull. Hunter Butler says, Tom, do you have a warm jacket on? We do. I do. Obama says, Microsoft CEO sold half his Microsoft stock. Yes, he did. And now we have a new CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, stepping down. Which I think is actually a good move. I think is actually a very, very good move. So Jack Dorsey is no longer the CEO of Twitter. Santa Monica Rodriguez. Miss Dash 101 says, hello, Tom. Good evening, everyone. What's the topic tonight? So the topic, we're just doing a quick brief on the overall markets. We were talking about the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell was talking today. We have cybersecurity earnings today. EBITDA says, I feel the dip was due to the quants selling off their high PE equities, as always. They got spooked by the Fed cutting back emotional retail traders. And the coronavirus didn't help with anything either, says EBITDA. Yeah, all possible. All possible. And I think we just have to take a step back and realize that ever since that correction of October, right? We went into a correction in October, and ever since we broke out of that corrective base, we've been off to the races, gangbusters, all-time record highs, day after day after day for almost 7 weeks. So if we look at the historical extension over the 50-day moving average on all the major equity indices, it was pretty egregious. It was almost like 10% extended above the 50-day. So any correction to the 50-day moving average is normal. I know it may be scary. I know there may be volatility. But in my eyes, in my personal opinion, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about just yet. Because if we look at the big picture, the S&P 500 it's only like 5% off all-time record highs. I actually think it needs to fall further to touch and bounce off its 50-day moving average. Anytime you have major equity indices breaking through a 50-day moving average on higher than average volume, that's when we need to start getting concerned. But the main thing, as you guys all know, and girls, the main thing to look at is not the stock market, it's the bond market, is the predictor and the tell-all. And the 10-year yield actually came down quite a bit. Hey, Mike Atan says, hello, everybody. What's up, Mike? Good to see you. Destructionist says, happy Tuesday. What end of town are we in tonight? We are in the Lower East Side. Lower East Side. EBITDA says, Wall Street Skate Bro, what is your opinion on BTC versus ETH? I was all BTC, but I have been growing my Ethereum position more and more. I feel like the tech behind ETH is solid compared to BTC. Your thoughts? Yeah, so I think my thoughts in relation to that is, well, I have more Bitcoin than I do Ethereum, but I think you're going to see better performance out of Ethereum. But a lot of maximalists, as they call them, would probably disagree heavily, because Bitcoin maximalists are all about, they don't like any centralization, they don't like any government intervention, anything like that. And Ethereum is essentially built on AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? So if Jeff Bezos wants to pull the plug, the whole thing is over. But I think in a normal functioning society, you do need to have some sort of, government and centralization around things. So I think the majority of the development is probably going to take place on Ethereum to build products and services, as well as DeFi, or decentralized finance. So I think you're going to see more use case in terms of products and services being built on the Ethereum blockchain, I think. But I do view Bitcoin as more of like a digital gold. So I own both, but I think that ETH will probably generate more alpha, in my opinion. JK says BTC is my asset holder of choice. RL says pizza on every block. Ron TV Metro says hello all and mods. Deborah S says soft war between Russia. I don't think so. Sarah G says get in before regulation. Interesting. Diana Lee says hi Tom, nice to catch a live stream. What's up Diana Lee? David Jones says why do they not put the garbage in cans or dumpsters in New York City? Because I think there's so much garbage, it's impossible to put them all in garbage cans. So they just leave them in bags and wait for the sanitation workers to take them out. I think if you put them in garbage cans, it'd be near impossible to take out the trash, in my view. AZ is here, says hello Tom, it's been some time since I've been around. I see you're still doing your thing, good for you. What's up AZ? Happy to see you here as we make our way through the Lower East Side. Very different vibe on the Lower East Side as what we're used to in Midtown. Yeah, Wooster says also there are no alleys in New York City. That's a good point too. I think if you put everything in a garbage can, it'd just be like a pain for the sanitation workers to get everything out. I don't know. EBITDA says Wall Street agree regarding the 50 moving average. I usually only worry when the 200 MA flips in regards to the 50. Yeah, so EBITDA is exactly correct. And it's interesting that EBITDA brought that up because Paul Tudor Jones, which is, I guess you could say arguably one of the greatest traders, like pure play traders of all time, he says he considers something in an uptrend so long as it's above the 200 day, right? So I think we could just use these key moving averages as a guardrail. But obviously fundamentals do prevail. Diana Lisa sounds cold. It's very windy. Very, very windy. Ben says, when do you sleep? I usually sleep around midnight, 1 a.m. But Ben, good to see you. RL says, is there a New York City fee for setting up outdoor eating? I don't think so. I believe it's all free due to the virus. Ramsey says, I think the garbage is a worldwide problem. Photos from around New York is here. What's up, Photos? Good to see you. Lisa says, hello, President Biden was in our state today. Thank you for the great advice on the stocks and bonds. Great article you posted. Hey, Lisa, thank you. I appreciate that. Very cool to have Biden in your state. Horatio Snipes says, I bought my first stock last night. Tom, and Apple stock is holding a good choice. Well, anytime, I think, in my opinion, I always use the Peter Lynch rule. And the Peter Lynch rule, well, I guess I'll first tell you guys who Peter Lynch is. I think everybody knows who he is if you've been watching the stream. But Peter Lynch is regarded as one of the best mutual fund managers of all time. And he ran the Fidelity Magellan Fund. So Fidelity Magellan Fund. And Peter Lynch says, if you're going to make an investment and you need the money within 5 years, you probably should not invest that money. So any disposable income that you have that you can go without spending it for 5 years, that's what you should use for investments. So if it's money that you bought that cannot be at risk for more than a couple months, then you probably shouldn't. Oh, that was almost an accident. You probably shouldn't invest it, but if you can go without the money, you don't need it for food or groceries or rent, then yeah, I would say just hold it. Yeah, EBITDA says you look at Amazon and some of the big, large cap tech companies as more as a cash position now. Very true. Hey, Uncle Car Guy is here. What's up, Uncle Car Guy? Says, hey, Tom, what's your favorite part in New York? Probably the Upper West Side. Ooh, this place has a really cool vibe about it. Check it out. Gene is here, says, hey Tom, stay warm in New York. Thank you, Gene. Appreciate you. Hey, Carol H says, I met Peter Lynch in Boston once, walking downtown after work. No way, Carol. Oh my God. I would have had him sign my book, One Up on Wall Street. That's so cool. Yeah, Peter Lynch has a very well recognizable Boston accent. So this is I think this is a very old and well recognized Knish place. Since 1910, the original since 1910. Hunter Butler says, will you ever purchase a place in New York, Tom? I think I would purchase a place in New York. That's my dream to do that, but I need to have like ridiculously disposable income to do that. You know, it's near impossible to buy anything in New York unless you have a net worth of like 20 million or more. Hunter Butler, good to have you here. Tortellini says, anyone see that big rat? I did not see that. JPEX is amazing. Flexstream says, only invest risk capital, same concept as gambling. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree with the overall premise. I would say investing is gambling if you're buying like, you know, very illiquid stocks with no earnings, but I get you. Ramsey says, why is there always so much smoke coming up from the streets in New York City? So it's not smoke, it's probably steam from the subways. Because in the subways, the temperature is usually very hot. Kathy Boyce says, what's the price of gas in Manhattan? I actually have no idea because I don't drive. But I think when I was out on Long Island, I saw gas for like $4.16. NJB says, what kind of phone are you using for streaming on? I'm probably going to get a new phone tomorrow. So I'm using an iPhone 11 for streaming, NJB. David Jones says, I check my Robinhood balance 4 or 5 times a day. Should I stop doing that? Probably. So that was another thing in William J. O'Neill's book. And William J. O'Neill is the founder of Investors Business Daily. He always says, if you have to check your account balance every 2 seconds, you probably have too much at risk. And which I think is probably the correct saying there. John says, I don't think there are gas stations in Manhattan. Yeah, there's a couple, mainly on the west side and some on the way east side. Rubens is here, lost in the curve, says it's overflow from steam pipes to heat parts of the buildings in Manhattan. Kathy Boyce says, thank you. Horatio Snipes, how are you? NJB says, I don't drive either because my eyesight, I haven't driven a mile in my life. Wow. Let me read some of the comments, everybody. I want to try to make sure I get everybody. BBQ Ronaldo says, smoke is from the subway. But Carol, that's awesome that you met Peter Lynch. That's great. Kathy Boyce says, what the hell are you talking about? I just said hello. What's up, Kathy? Good to see you. Gene says, Wall Street Skate Bro, stay warm, Tom, till you return to Miami. I appreciate it. The Mighty Bull says, what's wrong with leaving your money in the bank? Well, I guess there's nothing wrong with leaving money in the bank, but for prolonged periods of time, you should probably move that into some sort of investment in order to beat inflation. Pineapple Water says, Bitcoin will probably be regulated before Ethereum. Foreign governments will accept it as legal tender much sooner, in my opinion, says Pineapple Water. Very cool. Ice says, do you think the borders between America and Canada will close because of the virus? I hope not. But I was reading something across the tape in Bloomberg that Japan just shut their borders to all countries, which I think is ridiculous. I don't want this to turn into too much of a political stream, but I think the lockdowns are absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. And that guy just got a ticket for the red light cameras. It's always good. The Mighty Bull says, what's wrong with keeping your money in the bank for the long term? Well, if you keep your money in the bank for the long term, the interest rate that you're going to accrue is not enough to outweigh the inflationary pressures. So essentially what the Federal Reserve has done it's punished savers throughout the past decade, ever since the '08 financial crisis. And this has created an artificial risk-on environment, because if you're just saving all your money in a bank account, the Federal Reserve is essentially telling you that they are going to punish you for not putting your capital at risk. Because if you're earning less than a fraction of a percent in the bank, and inflation, we just got a CPI print of almost 6.5%, you're guaranteed to lose money having your cash just sit there. So this creates a risk-on environment where investors are forced to search for yield. Ryan says, hi, Tom and friends, abolish the Federal Reserve. So there's a very good book about the Fed. I believe it's called The Creature of Jekyll Island. So I'm not in the camp where I think the Federal Reserve is like, well, I do think they're an evil institution, but I mainly just say that as a joke, as like a gag. I do believe the vast majority of people at the Fed have the country's best interest in hand, but I'm just not a big fan of Keynesian economics. I see Laytha here, and Disney cast member. What's up, Disney cast member? And Laytha. Lost in the Curve says, unless there is a very killer strain, I don't think the Americans are willing to shut down. Trevi30 says, hello again, Tom. Hey, Bella sorta hair says, hi, Tom, agree 100% about the lockdowns. Yeah, but everybody, we have to cool it. Unfortunately, we do have to cool it on the COVID talk a little bit. Apologize. Perry Kirby says, your video is out of focus. What about now? Is it good now? War Walker says, evening, Tomcat. How are you? You started early tonight. Yes, we did. So War Walker is a viewer from Miami. Good to have you here, War Walker. Ken Kramer says, the Fed is a bureaucracy with very little accountability. Yeah, I agree. So the reason, everybody, and I'm a big fan of free speech, and you guys know that about me. Regardless of if your politics tend to lean towards the liberal side or the conservative side, I always allow free-flowing ideas because I think it's good. I think it helps me learn to hear ideas from both sides of the aisle. And the chat is filled with a bunch of liberals and a bunch of conservatives. We all get along great because this isn't CNN and this isn't Fox News where they pin each other at each other's throats. But the only reason why we can't talk about the V word is because I have 2 strikes now on the channel, and 3 strikes and you're out of here. So the third one, there'll be no more Wall Street Scaperoad channel, unfortunately. But if that happens, I'll still just write the newsletter for you guys every week. Ice, what's up, Ice? So everybody, if you look straight ahead, you can see the Empire State Building. It's lit up for Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah, everybody. It looks beautiful. Great view of the Empire here. Obama says make a backup channel. Sabrina Fair says, Thomas, to vet my comments because I'm a loose cannon. Look, loose cannons are welcome. Eric Texas says, hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on the S&P 500 earnings growth rate? 220 forecast for 2022. How is it going up so fast? Well, I think you have a very high weighting in the S&P to tech companies. So if you think about the Googles of the world, or the Alphabet, I should say, not Google. Google is a parent of Alphabet, or vice versa. Usually what happens is you have extreme earnings growth once you hit a certain part of the S-curve. And now, like I'll give you a clear example. So back in the day, everybody was saying Amazon Web Services is never going to be profitable. Microsoft Azure cloud platform is never going to be profitable. And now these are massive profit centers for those businesses. They're saying the same thing now with Google's cloud unit. So a lot of people don't know, Google's cloud unit is actually not profitable. Last quarter, Google's cloud unit lost about $614 million. And all these analysts at Deutsche Bank mainly, because they're not a real investment bank, are saying that it's terrible. They should, and some analysts are saying that they should stop investing in Google Cloud, which I think is crazy. If anything, you should feed that business unit, because that Google Cloud will turn profitable. And once it does turn profitable, that's going to hit the bottom line and generate a significant amount of free cash. And I think it'll probably turn profitable within the next 3 years. So the S&P has a very, very high weighting to big tech stocks that have phenomenal earnings. And I think you're going to see the majority of the earnings in the S&P congregated to about 20% of the actual stocks in the index. EBITDA says Wall Street Scapo agree. Deutsche Bank is not a BB investment bank. Hilarious. Hey, EBITDA, how did your deal go? I remember EBITDA was telling us he had a big meeting for a deal. Sabrina Fair says, I hate the cloud. They could shut me down for any reason. I don't know about that. Sarah G says, usually sucks up money at first, an investment, then it launches. I agree. NJB says, do you have a favorite World Trade Center building? I always like the older design. You know what? I do like the older design a lot better. So it's so unfortunate. Yeah, I don't want to, talk too bad about it, but I mean, if you guys Google some pictures of the Manhattan skyline with the World Trade Centers in the background, I mean, the original World Trade Centers post 9/11, there's just something about it that made it special. EBITDA says, Tom, I can't give details, but let's say the biggest deal I have seen since the Lucid Motors CCIV deal. Oh, cool, dude. That's awesome, man. Congrats. Well, definitely keep us updated when you have the time to, or when you are allowed to talk about it. Obviously, no pressure. Hey, Diana Lee, I appreciate it. 5 pounds for the hydration fund. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Giovanna says, it's good to see you live. Do you at any point know Cash Jordan? I do, actually. He's the real estate guy here. He is a real estate broker right here in Manhattan. Let me rephrase that. I don't know him personally, but I do know of him. I watch his YouTube videos. JPEG says, you crossed against the hand up, Tom. Sorry about that. Sarah G says, I used to have a big Twin Towers mural on my wall. Yeah, very beautiful. Lay this is the World Trade Centers or the sleeping giants looking over the city. Agreed. Yeah, Team INC is more iconic. They were. They really were. And with the building of the new World Trade Center, there was a lot of corruption and a lot of terrible things, but yeah, Tortellini 69 years ago says old architecture, no doubt, for sure. Ron TV Metro says, is it safe to invest in foreign exchange currency? I think if you're going to be a Forex trader or something like that, you really need to know what you're doing. So I'd say for the vast majority, like 99% of people, stay away from the Forex junk, garbage, nonsense that you see on social media and that these people are trading Forex and making money. It's all BS, I guarantee it. I think the only time you should really get involved in the Forex markets is if you've actually worked, at a true investment bank where you've learned, you were sitting on a sales and trading desk or on a currency desk at one of the main investment banks and you actually know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's ridiculous, because trading with foreign currencies incurs a lot of leverage, and you really got to have a very good global macro view, which the majority of people do not. So unless you have significant training at, let's say if you worked at Goldman Sachs on their Forex desk, right? And you actually learned a systematic process about how to do it, then I would. But if not, if you have no experience working in traditional finance, I don't personally do it at all. I don't think there's any reason to. JPEG43 says all the best, appreciate it. Penelope says, I agree, all the smart thing to keep running out of space. I like it in case something happens to my things, but I want my own personal backup. It's cheaper than a safety deposit box. Interesting. Soho Guy says, hey Tom, I signed up 2 of my personal emails for your newsletter. I appreciate that, Soho. Thank you. Obama says, my brother proposed to the wife in windows of the World Trade Center. That is so cool, Obama. Hey, Out and About is here from Toronto, Canada. Good to see you out and about, as always. Giovanna says that the term that I meant to write, if you were familiar of him, that's nice. Some of his house he shows on his channel are beautiful. I came from a large owned home, so I love his vlog. Yeah, he's great. Cash Jordan is phenomenal. I watch his channel a lot. Hey, Great Walk says hello. When did you start the live stream? YouTube didn't tell me. We started about 45 minutes ago. North says hello from Midland, Canada, Ontario, Canada. What's going on? Gene says, Tom, we would be sad without your streams. Please no vaccine word. Absolutely. Hey, Mia's here, says, hey Tom, Lightspeed Brokerage approved my request to increase my margin account from 8-to-1 intraday to 5-to-1. Any advice, suggestions on how to avoid trouble? I would never trade on margin. That's just, I don't trade on margin. I never would. I don't think you need to. So I'm not the person to ask about margin, because I don't really use margin. Very rarely do I ever use margin. Extremely rare circumstances. Hey, Giovanna says hello, first time here. Welcome to the stream, Giovanna. Arsenal Fan 13 says, hey, Wall Street Skate Bro. Enjoying your walk so far, man. Appreciate that. Soho says, yo, Tom, if you get banned from YouTube, it just proves how cool you are. I appreciate that. Hunter says, do you track your steps? I do not track my steps. Eric says, Apple investment, ? Horatio Snipes says, I made $5 from my Apple stock, Tom, but my cash balance is processing, Tom. This is confusing. Yeah, so, it's probably about a settlement, right? So usually when you sell a stock, there's a settlement phase. So it usually takes about 2 to 3 days for settlement. So in your cash balance, it'll actually probably show 0 until it clears through a clearinghouse. Daniel G is here, says, hi Tom, good evening. What's going on, Daniel G? Daniel is joining us from Buenos Aires, Argentina, as we arrive here on East 8th Street on the corner of Lafayette at Astor Place Cube. Fresh Starts is, hi Tom, what is the color of the Empire State Building? The Empire State Building is the color for Hanukkah. Otto says, is this a buying opportunity? Which sector would you recommend? So I guess we'll talk about that a little bit. So in my personal opinion, I do think that this recent sell-off in the stock market possesses a buying opportunity, in my opinion. Now, this isn't a suggestion to buy anything. It's not financial advice. But I think we could just have a conversation about the financial markets. And one of the reasons why I think it's a buying opportunity is because I'm not seeing any trouble in the debt market. So the most important thing that I think that you have to look at is the 10-year US Treasury yield, the yield on that 10-year. And throughout today's sell-off and on Friday, now remember, Friday was a shortened trading day. The financial markets closed at 1 o'clock on Friday. And on Friday, the US 10-year came down a little bit. And today, the 10-year came down a little bit as well. But we saw Fed Chair Jerome Powell come out today and say that inflation is definitely not transitory. And you guys know that it wasn't transitory. We were talking about this 2 months ago on the stream, that inflation is obviously not transitory and that Jerome Powell was just lying to everybody. So Jerome Powell is like, well, we're looking at some things and what we're probably going to do is start to taper our purchases of assets and raise interest rates sooner than it's expected. So what I think is happening is that the market is pricing in a rate hike. So they're selling down equities and raising cash in order to price in a quote-unquote rate hike by the Federal Reserve. But as we know on this channel, it's more important to actually pay attention to what the Federal Reserve is actually doing, not just listen to what they're saying. In my opinion, they're not raising interest rates anytime soon, and they're not going to start to taper, even though they say they are. So I think that this dip will be bought up. And we also have to keep into perspective that we are only about maybe 3% off of all-time record highs across the major indices. And a normal correction is about down to the 50-day moving average. So if you took a look at my newsletter, I broke down the major levels we have to watch, and I went into a little bit more detail about why I think it's a buying opportunity. But the only thing that concerns me is when we look at the quote-unquote reopening stocks and the reopening trades. Is that blood? Oh well. So the only thing that concerns me is that if we look at the reopening stocks, the reopening trades, like the airlines and the cruise lines, these things are getting clocked and sold down big. And Carnival Cruise Lines is actually back to the price levels it was in May of 2020. So what that signals to me is that the market is telling us that more lockdowns are on the way. There may not be lockdowns in the United States, but it could be rolling out across the country, as we see in Japan. Japan just locked down the entire country. So let's see how this plays out over the next coming weeks. Hunter says, how old are you, Tom? I'm 26. So this is the Bean. The Bean is actually a pretty decent coffee shop. Mr. Cold says, yeah, that's blood. Frank Gonzalez says, Tom, hola, aren't you close from IBM? Yeah, so we are close to the IBM Watson building. And Watson is their AI platform. Arsenal Fan 13 says, what cycle of market would you say we're currently in? I would say later stage. Fresh Start says, are you near the FDR Drive? We are not. Franklin says, hi, Tom. Good evening, bro. What's up, Franklin? Franklin is joining us from the great country of Brazil. What's up, Franklin? Ken Kramer says, signaling isn't doing. Bing, bing, bing. Sarah G says, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Sarah G says, cybersecurity, toys, and tech. Let me see. Hey, Otto says, thanks, Tom. Appreciate your insight. Thank you for the super chat, 5 Canadian. I really do appreciate that, Otto. Thank you for all the support. Is the coffee good there? The coffee's decent. It's not bad. It's pretty good. So the Bean, and this is close to New York University, NYU. Rhonda Silverman says, where do we find your newsletter? So Rhonda, if you look in the link in the description, I believe I put the link to the newsletter, or if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, it should drop a link where you can enter your email and the newsletter will be sent to you. and you could read any of the newsletters. So I think this is the 8th one we've written, and you can read every single one archived online. I put it up on the website, so you're more than welcome to do that. So if you look to your right, this is H Mart, and this is one of my favorite grocery stores in the city. It's an all Asian grocery store. So there's groceries and cuisine in here, Japanese, Chinese, Indian food, very good stuff right here at H Mart, some of the best. Cosmo Scary says, Tom, I just got a new laptop. Any spots you recommend to sit and work with it? You know what, Cosmo? This place is actually not bad. This place has a great dining area in there. So this is the Bean on 3rd Avenue that I would recommend, and East 9th Street. Hey, Warlocks is really enjoying your informative live streams. Thank you, no problem. Thank you for being here. Check out this thing, everybody. Sabrina Fair says, does anybody have a Dell computer? I don't. I do not have a Dell computer. Fresh Start says, what's the pizza in Lower East Side, Tom? There's a lot of pizza spots in the Lower East Side. I can't name them all, but there's a lot. Dominic says, hi, I love New York. What's up, Dominic? Good to see you. Mr. Cold says, they be cooking in the human tunnels in New York City. Ron TV says, is it safer to just invest in small businesses? Well, if you're talking about your own small business, I would say that's probably where the majority of your cash should go. And for any small business owner, that's probably where the majority of your cash is going to go. Because I think the most important investment, if you're going to start your own business, is to reinvest the money into the business, right? To grow, hopefully grow revenues. Because if one day you go to sell, or maybe you're really, really passionate about your business, you can grow it and pass it down for generations and generations. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. What's up, Victor? Hey, Melee is here. What's up, Melee? Arsenal says, what's your best go-to pizza spot in the city? Go to just to get a regular good slice is probably Made in New York pizza on the Upper West Side. But if you want something interesting, you got to go to Prince Street. Ken Kramer, good to see you. Eric Texas says, did you see the Beatles series on Disney Plus? I did not, Eric Texas. George Lopez says, terrible MJ never closes the front gate. Flex Stream says, you should pin the link to the chat. I think one of the moderators dropped the link in the chat. Hunter says, what news do you follow? So really the only news that I consume is, the newspapers that I'll read is Barron's I think is a pretty good news outlet in relation to finance, the Wall Street Journal, and then Investors Business Daily. Very rarely do I consume any content of like CNN or Fox News or something like that. Very rarely. Franklin says, I love New York. This city is my dream. I want to visit USA one day. Come on down. Dominic says, my name is Carl Dominic. Diana Lee says, Tom, you're making me hungry. Christopher Downer says, I officially signed up for the newsletter just now. Hey, thank you, Christopher. Appreciate it. Man, it is windy out though, guys. Hey, Terrence Yee says, hey, Tom, are you going to stop by the Barclays Center for the Knicks and Nets tonight? I will not be doing that. But maybe I'll check it out on my phone when I'm on the train. I think that's a little bit too far away from where we are, the Barclays Center, from where we are right now. But maybe one day we'll go there. But good to see you. Fresh Start says, Tom, can you show us One World Trade Center, the Freedom Tower? So maybe we'll see it on our way back, but we're walking uptown today. Hey, Coolon 516 is here. What's going on, Coolon 516? Ken Kramer's value line for stock research. I'll have to take a screenshot of that. I don't think I've ever heard about that before. Hugo is here. What's up, Hugo? So this is the Hanukkah truck here. NNB 045 says Boom Bust on RT is also a great business show. Yeah, also the Kaiser Report is very good. I always watch the Kaiser Report. If anybody is not familiar with the Kaiser Report, it's a show put on by Max Kaiser. Very good. Movie guy in New York City says Prince Street Pizza owner called Asians, so I won't go there. I'm not sure about that, so I can't confirm or deny that. Soho guys, yo Tom, you're getting too cool for YouTube. Obama says, remember Wall Street Week TV show? I think I'm a little bit too young to remember that, but yikes, that guy almost got clocked. Diana Lee says, weather not too bad for the end of November, beginning of December, in my honest opinion. Yeah, it's not that bad. JPEG43 says, Tom, have you ever been mugged? I am not sure about that. Usually the only times I've ever get mugged in the city is usually around Thursday nights at 3:30. So usually every Thursday at 3:30. Penelope says, Tom has always been too cool for school. All right, so everybody. Oh, I see Alice here. Says howdy. What's up? What's up, Alice? Good to see you. So everybody, what I just wanted to say is that this week is a big week for cybersecurity earnings. So a lot of cybersecurity companies are reporting earnings today and this week, one of which being Zscaler. Zscaler is an extremely good company. CrowdStrike is also another company that plays in the cybersecurity space that is reporting earnings today after the bell, and Okta, OKTA. And Okta is a company that specializes in identity and access management. So the acronym would be IAM. And they compete with the likes of Ping Identity, P-I-N-G Identity, which was actually brought public by Vista Equity Partners. So the reason why I wanted to talk about these cybersecurity companies and really single them out as they're reporting earnings all this week is because I think it's very important to pay attention during earnings season, not only for idea generation in terms of investments, but also for career opportunities and job opportunities. I've always said it's very important to look to get a job or develop a career in an industry that is growing. You never want to go into an industry that's in structural decline. You want to make sure that you have a good runway, you're at a company that's expanding and growing its revenues and its earnings. And I think cybersecurity is going to be a particular sector of the economy that's going to grow exponentially over the next 5 to 10 years. So keep your eye out on Zscaler, keep your eye out on CrowdStrike and Okta. But I think the leader of the group is a company called Fortinet. And Fortinet also has very good SD-WAN solutions. And SD-WAN is an acronym for Software-Defined Wide Area Network. Sarah G says, yeah, I like that you said that. Mr. Cold says, Blue Chip Industries. Hi from Japan. What is going on, everybody from Japan? Good to have you here. SD Rob says, is everyone in the city watching Knicks versus Nets? I'm not sure. Daniel G says, Tom, you're not in Miami. We are not. We'll be there tomorrow. Fresh Start says, Tom, can you show me the H&M building? We can. Looks like they're doing a lot of construction over here. Ken Kramer says the government mugs us regularly for taxes. So we're coming up on the Union Square Market. And this is also a very good view of the Empire State Building. Once again, lit up in the colors for Hanukkah. Hey, Walter King says, coming to New York tomorrow. Where can I have some fun? Anywhere. New York's a great city. I would definitely suggest you visit the Upper West Side. The Upper West Side is beautiful this time of year. Lost in the Curve says, so do IT people just plug and play cybersecurity software? I always thought they were geniuses. Says Lost in the Curve. Mars SoCal says, do you like New York or Florida better? I like New York better in the spring and the summer, and I like Florida better in the winter. That's what I would say. Florida better in the winter, New York better in the spring and the summer. No, I don't. Huh? A phone. Huh? Yeah. Franklin says, Sabrina Fair, oh cool. Daryl says, good evening from Chicago, Illinois. Layda. What's up, Layda? Yeah, I could tell when people are... Usually I have a good read on people if they are up to nefarious business. My favorite one is when people come up to me with a phone in their hand and they say, hey, could you just come over here and tell me what time it is? No. Hey, Tatiana says, hey, good evening, guy. I appreciate your videos from Brazil. Appreciate it, Tatiana. Lay, this is Tom. Once city smart, always city smart. Franklin says, Tom, can you say a sentence in Portuguese? I don't really know Portuguese that much. I know a little bit of Spanish, but I do not know any Portuguese. But I would like to learn, I think, one day. Hey, Mario's here, says, good evening, everybody. Mr. Cold says, time for you to get a watch, bud. Yeah, I mean, I'll be nice and kind to people that aren't trying to steal my stuff. I can tell. I have a very good read on people. Very, very good. ROBC 4290 says, I wonder how many restaurants serve rat in New York City. Probably about a good 15%. Inadvertently, that is. Just kidding. Hey, what's up, Cherry Groove? Good to see you. NYC Cherry Groove is in the chat. What's up, Cherry Groove? Good to see you. Cool Ant 516 says, what is the building to the left of the Empire State Building that looks green? That looks green. Let's see. Let me check. So it could be the Bank of America Tower, or it could be the H&M building. Well, let's check. Let's see. Med62X says, I hope you are big and tall. Fresh Start says, Tom, you are near Broadway. Yes. So Fresh Start, we are on the corner of East 17th Street and Broadway. Sarah G says, LOL, I'm a short woman, so I just act like I don't hear them. Hey, Luke Williams says, have you ever been mugged in New York City? Usually Thursdays at 3:30. Enough mugging talk, guys. What's up, man? Everybody's like, hey, Tom, when are you getting mugged? When are you getting mugged? When are you getting mugged? You want to get mugged? No, guys, I don't want to get mugged, man. No mugging. Please. Hey, Traveling Tips says, thoughts on the news from Salesforce today. They announced earnings and a new co-CEO who I heard is on the board of Twitter. Yeah, so that is right. Salesforce did report earnings today. I believe yesterday they actually raised their guidance for the year. I haven't had a chance to look at how Salesforce reported because I was on the Zscaler earnings call. So it's a big week of earnings with all the cybersecurity companies, but I'm definitely going to check out how Salesforce did. But the significance of this earnings report is that Salesforce this will be the first quarter since the acquisition of Slack. So this is the first quarter since Salesforce acquisition of Slack has officially closed. So it'll be interesting to see the financial metrics coming out of Slack. I think it'll be a pretty good acquisition. Hunter says, are you wearing Vans? I am not. I do not own a pair of Vans. Mr. Cold says, the dollar gets strong just before it crashes and we go into default. This is Mr. Cold. I don't think we'll ever default. Because now that we are in a fiat money system, we could always just create more. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. But I think the United States is pretty well solidified as the world reserve currencies. As the world reserve currency, I should say. Ken Kramer says AMD should be closing with Xilinx deal before the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, the only thing about that is regulators may put a stop to it. But yes, I did hear about that. Xilinx and AMD. We'll see. We'll definitely have to see. Hey, Channel N5 says, thank you, Tom. Cool on 516 as we go through the default stuff every year. Yeah, I mean, so that's another thing that I agree with you about. You know, the debt ceiling, it's all just the news. It's the news of the day. It's all talk. You know, if it's a slow news day, they're going to cover it. And then they'll have a bunch of people on CNBC talking about, hey, you know, are we going to reach the debt ceiling? And they always raise it. They always raise it. It comes down to the wire, and then they raise it. So I never even read articles about that anymore. Diana Lee says, Tom, is that rain? NYC Cherry Groove says, Tom, your take on the cannabis industry, because it is always growing no matter how you look at it. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the legalization of marijuana. And this is coming from a person who used to be very, very strongly opposed to it. I think my views have changed about marijuana in terms of the legalization probably around my junior year of college. I used to be extremely opposed to it. And I almost was sort of arrogant about it too.
Okay, bye, Janine.
But then I've adopted more of an open mind and willing to learn about it a little bit more. And I think my viewpoints have changed ever since I started listening to Dr. Carl Hart. So if anybody wants to listen to some very interesting information on the decriminalization of drugs in the United States and the legalization of not just specifically marijuana, but really any drug, please check out Dr. Carl Hart. And he's written multiple books. He's actually a professor here at Columbia University. Very smart guy, very interesting guy. And he's sort of changed my perspective on the legalization of marijuana and entirely. And for medical purposes and things like that. So I think cannabis will be an unbelievable growing industry. I think will be very good for some of the banks, because right now a lot of it's a cash only business, because banks are not allowed to do business with these dispensaries, which I think is quite dangerous actually. You know, you have these people that's just a cash business and they're not allowed to have any sort of banking system. So I think you're going to see a whole banking system, fintech system developed around marijuana, which I think is very good. I think you're going to see a lot of innovation and research and development poured into medical research for marijuana. As of right now, in terms of companies that are profitable and making money. So for me, at the moment, I think certain equity that is making a lot of Square Bet says they should use crypto. A lot of want other business. I think we're buffering a little bit. Hey, Kimmy G is here. What's up, Kimmy G? Patty C64 says, I'm from New York City, Manhattan, near Water Street and the ferry. I used to work down there for many years. I used to work right next to the Deutsche Bank at 82 Wall Street. I believe Deutsche Bank was 60 Wall Street, and I worked right next to the Deutsche Bank right there on the corner of Wall and Water. Very beautiful place down there. Not so fun during the winter when it is windy and cold, but very beautiful nonetheless. So happy you're here. Pat Waters is here, says hello, Tom. What's up, Pat? Good to have you. Miguel Gonzalez is here. What's up, Miguel? Lost in the Curve says states cannot unsee the potential tax revenue and little to no downside of legalization. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be an extreme tax generator for a lot of these states. And what I think some research has shown, and if you guys want to, you guys have to Google Dr. Carl Hart and listen to some of the interviews with him. And he actually posts a lot of his lectures at Columbia University for free online. And he's actually done studies about revenue models of tax streams legalizing marijuana. And what he proposes is to legalize marijuana, tax it, and then give everybody a break on their property taxes, which I think is a phenomenal idea. Ron says here in Illinois, the tax wreck drug just falls into the money pit. Sarah G says yes, plus more money into the medical field. I agree. Yeah, a lot of money into research and development. I think we need a lot of that. Daniel G says Knicks Nets tie at 110 in C4. Fresh Start says, Tom, can you walk in front of the Empire State Building? Yes, we will. Diana Lee says, the sky is amazing. Pat Waters says, it's good to see you, my friend. Good to see you too. Nicholas says, Tom, can I hire you to be my consulted mentor? What do you charge? Nicholas, I don't think I'd have time for that, but if you need any help, just feel free to shoot me an email. William Brown says, the best way to protect yourself against buffering is to get vaccinated. Well, I guess the vax isn't working too well because we're buffering a lot tonight. Sarah G says, Newton's law, something that is in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon it. Pat Waters says, Tom, found a few properties in Forest Hills and Kew Gardens. Really cool. Kew Gardens is a very cool area. That was funny. Whoever put that in the chat, jeez. Eugene says, hey Tom, what's up Eugene? Good to see you. We are by Italy. Flexstream says, I support full legalization of all drugs, tax it and give it to the people that do not use drugs. So one of the things that Dr. Carl Hart says is he is not for the legalization of all drugs, but he is for the decriminalization of all drugs. Which when I heard that, I thought that was such an interesting idea. I never thought about that before. Because, you know, I grew up thinking that, you know, as a kid, everybody's stupid as a kid. So, you know, don't judge me. When I was 16, 15 years old, I mean, everybody's an idiot, 16, 15 years old. So I used to think that everybody who does drugs is a scumbag. If you do weed, if you smoke weed, you're a burnout and a loser. But as I've grown up and really gotten to see the world and experience things and have an open mind, you really come to find that the majority of things you believe when you're 15 and 16 are kind of ridiculous. And when you listen to people that are, you know, a lot smarter than you, that are more educated than you, you can sort of formulate better ideas and have a better understanding of the world. So I am for the decriminalization of all drugs, because I think the vast majority of people who unfortunately fall into the category of becoming addicted to drugs, such as in the heroin pandemic and the opioid pandemic that we have in the United States, really is from no fault of their own. You know, sometimes they're, you know, fall into a bad situation, they've come down on themselves, or have been served a not so great lot in life. And the system we have now punishes these people criminally for that. And that does no good to anybody and actually costs the American taxpayer a lot of money. So what we should do is we should decriminalize this. Stop putting these people in jail for having possession of these drugs and only focus on the criminalization of soliciting and selling these drugs. So punish the dealers, punish the cartels. Don't punish the people that are buying these drugs, because a lot of the times people who are buying these drugs are addicted to them. It's very, very addictive. So they could spiral into a not so good situation. So I'm for the decriminalization. This way we don't have to pay for the prison, the huge prison population we have, and save the American taxpayer a lot of money. Sarah G says they are addicted. Yep. Hey, Mark Davis's interesting initiatives and conversation you were having, Tom. Yeah, so everybody, Mark Davis this is actually what he does for his job, right? He is in the medical marijuana space and he sees the benefits every day. Hey, Patrick New York is here. Says, hey, Tom. What's going on, Patrick? Good to see you. Mark Davis's medical purposes for sure. TL says the goal is to investigate basic mechanisms of interactions between biology and RF radiation and to uncover previously known bioeffects of RF exposures. This is TL. Yeah, Penelope says, oh my gosh, the doctors have been throwing opioids at me left and right, but I have to be careful to not get addicted. Hey, it's so true. These doctors, especially when I was in high school, you know, I knew a lot of football players that were on the high school football team. They would get, you know, a little swollen or sprained ankle during a football game. And the next thing you know, they come to school with these opioids, and these kids are addicted. And I know a lot of kids, who died from it. It's really crazy, really bizarre. And I think there needs to be a lot of accountability for a lot of these big pharma companies. But I guess that'll be a different topic for a different stream. Cosmo says, I quit cannabis a few years ago. It made me feel too tired and lazy. Yeah, so what I think is that weed is not for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's definitely not for me. But I know a lot of people who are veterans who say it calms them down. It helps them with post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. So I do see use cases in it, but just like everything, it's not going to be for everybody. But I agree with you, Cosmo, for sure. Ken Kramer says drug dealers in white coats are never held accountable. Unfortunately, that is true. Sarah G says, be careful with health and doctors. You have to advocate for yourself. What else we got here? Mark Davis is absolutely, Tom. You were bang on, and thank you for sharing this. No problem, Mark. Yeah, Mark, feel free to share some of the links that you were sending me about the medical marijuana research. Feel free to share them in the chat for everybody. Ben Jem says the next thing will be medical mushrooms, even though they have been around for a while now. Yeah, so there's a big boom in the psychedelics market too. Absolutely agreed. Hunter says, are you Hispanic? I am not. Leda says, would you? Yeah, that's true. J.A. says, my friend, how are you? Saludos from El Salvador. Thanks for this video, no problem. Penelope says, it's crazy, Tom. No one knows it's going to work for them or not, or how to handle it. I agree. Giovanna says, Wall Street Skate Bro, if you take the time out to study full proposition of people that do more than just the ones that do harmless things, you will learn that drugs are not the full issue, says Giovanna. Absolutely agreed. All right, guys, I apologize. The comments are going by way too fast. I don't think it's possible for me to read all of them. Richard says, all worried about the drugs already being used. Better watch out for the sketchy. Yep. Dino, New Jersey says, hi, Tom, enjoying your newsletter, even though it keeps going to the spam folder. Yes. So that is the problem we've been having. So the newsletter has been going to the spam folder of a lot of people. So I'm not sure how to fix that. So apologize. Fresh Start says, Tommy, you need a 31st Street or 34th Street. Yes, we are. So we are coming up near Koreatown. So this is West 28th Street and Broadway. Coming towards Koreatown. Alex says, do you think data analytics is a good career choice? I do. I definitely do. Anything involving data science will always be a very, very highly in-demand field. So data science, data analytics, I think those are very, very good career choices. And quite often, very good compensation packages as well. Hey, Kevin Sunderland says, Tom, thanks as always for a great stream. Not much to say and think. I'll just listen tonight. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you. Always appreciate the support, Kevin. Joey says, favorite restaurant in Koreatown. Favorite restaurant in Koreatown is Take 31, T-A-K-E 31. But Kevin, I'm not sure how long ago you joined, but we were talking about the sell-off across the board today in the stock market. But one of the things I wanted to note is that I do think this dip will be bought. And the main reason is because that 10-year yield and the whole yield curve in general came down today. So that doesn't really signal a major crash coming, at least in my eyes. So I do believe that this dip will be bought. And we also have to keep into consideration that all the main equity indices are only about 3 to 5% off their all-time record highs. But if we look under the hood of this market, what we'll find is that many of the high beta, high growth tech stocks are selling off very, very hard. And I think the main reason why this is happening is because Fed Chair Jerome Powell came out today and he said that we need to get rid of using this terminology transitory around inflation. Inflation should persist. By the way, me and you on the stream, we've known this, everybody, for over 2 months now, but the Federal Reserve has been lying to everybody and saying, oh, it's going to be transitory. Inflation is going to be transitory. They knew it was never going to be transitory. So Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, this is a cool bike. That's a really cool bike. And I'm not a big motorcycle guy. So if you haven't noticed, my attention span is horrible, very small attention span. But so the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell essentially came out and told everybody that they're thinking about tapering more aggressively than previously thought and raising interest rates faster than expected. So the markets are pricing in that interest rate hike. But you and me, we know it's more important to actually look at what the Federal Reserve is doing as opposed to listening to what they're saying. And they're still buying assets, they're still keeping interest rates artificially suppressed. So the first thing that usually gets sold off during an interest rate environment where it's rising are very high growth tech stocks. And the reason for that is because the majority of these software as a service names, these high PE names, very high beta names, these companies have earnings. The majority of these companies' earnings are actually priced into the future. So when interest rates go up, their earnings are actually now worth less today in the future, if that makes sense. So this is another great view of the Empire State Building. It's all lit up for Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah for all of our Jewish viewers in the chat. Happy Hanukkah. So when rates go up, those tech earnings are now worth less today in the future. Hey, Luke says, Tom, I hope you're right about this dip being bought. Portfolio got hammered today as I'm holding mostly high growth tech. Yeah, William or Luke. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people their portfolios are very highly weighted to these high beta names. They're seeing a lot of red in their portfolios, as am I. But mainly a lot of the people who have a very high weighting to, let's say, the S&P and the NASDAQ that are just buying the index, you don't even notice this correction. And that's why I always say it's very important to look under the hood in this market, because a lot of these high beta, high PE names are very dependent on low interest rates. Oftentimes, a lot of these startup companies wouldn't even exist if interest rates were bottom of the barrel levels. They wouldn't even exist, but their business model depends on low interest rates. So I believe that the market is pricing in a rate hike. I also believe that we've had an unbelievable rip-roaring rally on Wall Street in relation to these tech companies, and portfolio managers at big hedge funds and institutions are pulling profits for the end of the year. And they're also selling down their losers for tax loss selling. So if you look at a lot of the Chinese equities, if you look at a lot of the equities that have been underperforming, these things are getting pounded and absolutely pounded into the ground for tax loss selling. So when you have a position in your portfolio that is deep red and that you're losing money on, towards the end of the year, those positions tend to be sold so they can use those losses to write off against taxes. So let's say you're a portfolio manager and you make $100 million on some of your tech stocks, and you take $100 million in profit, but you lost $20 million on your Chinese equity longs. What you can do is you could sell your 20 million at a loss and write that 20 million off against your $100 million profit, this reducing your tax bill. Hey, Penelope's here, so selling down losers. SD Rob says, you must have had a few coffees before this stream. A couple. I think I only had 1 cup of coffee today. Sarah G says, but that's the market. Hang in for 5 years and you'll do great. Indeed, got to have a long-term time horizon. Dirk says it's 4 o'clock in the morning here. Israel says, love the smoke, some weed, and travel with you guys. I'm from the Amazons. It's amazing to see New York. Very cool. Mr. Stone says, my portfolio in tacos is hurting. Photos from around New York says, in your newsletters you mentioned the VIX. What is the VIX? Sorry if it's a silly question. Not a silly question at all. But for anybody asked what the best Korean restaurant in the city is, we're about to pass it right now. It's called Take 31. It's one of my favorite restaurants, and I'd probably argue the greatest Korean restaurant in the city right here. Take 31. So the VIX, or the CBOE Volatility Index, it's essentially a fear indicator. And oftentimes when you have big massive moves or spikes in the VIX, that usually indicates the market is very close to a bottom. It doesn't mean that on the day the VIX spikes, the market is going to bottom, but it usually means more oftentimes than not, you're getting closer to a bottom. Also, it's very important to pay attention to the VIX if you're an equity derivatives trader. So if you buy or sell a lot of options, because it's a very interesting time in the market. Because let's say you're very long a lot of the tech-heavy NASDAQ stocks, and you want to hedge your a derivative product or options that are called puts, P-U-T-S, puts. It's actually more expensive than pretty much any other time in recent history to buy options, because a big component that is made up in the formula of pricing options is volatility. And that's why most people, when they buy options, they lose money, is because they're buying options in an environment where volatility is historically high. So when you have a volatility crash in the options market, it's called volatility crush. So if you're buying puts on the S&P 500 or puts on the NASDAQ, and even though the NASDAQ goes down, well, let's say the NASDAQ sells off 40 points and you bought puts on the NDX or the Qs, and volatility that day, the VIX goes from 20, lose money on that options trade, because a big component of options trading is pricing and volatility. So this is a very weird time to be portfolio hedging with options, because the VIX was, I think a couple days ago, was almost at 28. So you're going to have a lot of volatility premium pumped into those options. And then let's say if the VIX goes back to 10, well, you have so much volatility crush. It's called a vol crush.
It's the first time it's in real lunch.
So historically on these big vol explosions, it's good to go short volatility, which actually means buying equities. Or you could just short VIX outright, which I don't really recommend doing. But we'll see. The VIX actually got a big bid today again. So here is probably the first or the second best view of the Empire State Building in the entire city. Hey, Marcos is here from Brazil. What's up, Marcos? Nicole says it's December 1st. Very cool. Giovannis is raised this way. They should keep this in their generation. So this is the best Korean restaurant for Korean barbecue in New York City. It's called Baekjung, New York City, and it's a great place. Highly recommended. TL says microwave radiation is the preferred method of genocide by the military. I'm not sure about that, TL, but interesting. Juliana says say hello to Brazil. What's up, Juliana? What's up, Brazil? Zachary is here. What's up, Zach? Good to see you. 48 is here from New Zealand. Says yes, December 1st here in New Zealand. Happy December, everybody. Elfer says I've been downtown Chicago, but never New York City. You got to come. Patty C64 says December is my birthday month. Well, happy birthday. December 1st is your birthday. Very cool. Marjan Worldwide says when your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep will... I lost the comment. Max's E. Esther Place. I'm trying to read all the comments, guys, but they're going too fast. I can't even read any. Mark Davis says, Tom, I am happy about your opinions now on medical cannabis. Cam Butler says, seems like it would be a great time for option sellers to go back to your point about volatility. Yeah, so usually when volatility is really, really high, it's good to be a net seller of options, right? So there's two sides to every trade. If somebody's buying an options contract, somebody else has to sell it. So if you think about what buying, let's say if you're buying a call contract, essentially the definition of buying a call is you have the right but not the obligation to purchase 100 shares of the underlying security. So I'll say that again. If you are buying one call contract, that gives the buyer of that option the right but not the obligation to purchase 100 shares of that underlying security at a certain date at a certain strike price. So hopefully that makes sense. But the vast majority of options never get exercised. But if your option gets exercised, you have to buy 100 shares of that underlying stock. So a lot of times, if you're a net seller of options, and judging based upon the fact that the majority of options expire worthless, you know, the odds are actually in your favor because the vast majority of options contracts expire worthless. Hey, Trinidad says, what skateboard? We do not have the skateboard tonight. Hey, Coffee, Travel, Food, Fashion says, Tom, have you ever been to Atlanta? I have not, but I really do want to go to Atlanta a lot. DN says, nobody needs to panic over this recent sell-off and make a rash decision. It can actually be good time to buy more shares, says DN. I agree with that premise. Nicole says, China screwed up with free trading with Australia. Now they need our coal. Hey, Great Walk says, New York looks quiet tonight. James Bond says, Apple was running hard. I'm up 125K. That's love. Very cool. So here we are at the very base of the Empire State Building. Zachary says, have a crypto arbitrage strategy. So I don't arbitrage cryptocurrencies. The only cryptocurrencies I own is Bitcoin and Ethereum. and I don't do any sort of arbitrage. Hey, Franklin says, well, I have to go now. I'll see you guys later. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here. As always, Talbish, good to see you. Now we are on 34th Street, East 34th. Square Bet says, Tom, do you own any Chinese stocks? I used to own Alibaba, but last week I blew out my entire Alibaba position at a loss for tax loss selling. So now I do not have any exposure to Chinese equities. I think the only exposure to Chinese equities I have is through one of the mutual funds I own in one of my retirement accounts. But the only individual Chinese stock I owned was Alibaba, which I blew the entire thing out last week for tax loss selling. TL says the US military is the greatest threat to America, says TL. Franklin says, bye, see you. Zachary says, what's your target allocation for crypto? I think in my opinion, you should probably have 5% of your net worth in Bitcoin, split between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the reason why I say this is because I was watching an interview on Bloomberg, I think it was either 2 weeks ago. And I usually have it on in the background during the day, but a portfolio manager from Morgan Stanley, portfolio manager on the wealth management side at Morgan Stanley, came on and said that she's now advising her clients to take a 2% allocation to Bitcoin. So, and you know, I've been watching this stuff since 2016. In 2016, you would never in a million years see an institutional money manager on Wall Street recommending an allocation to their clients to have some sort of their money in Bitcoin. Wouldn't happen. They'd be deemed you're crazy. So now, if you have somebody at Morgan Stanley telling you that they're recommending at least a 2% allocation to their clients, what do you think they're going to be saying in the same interview 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I think that allocation is going to go up significantly to maybe 5%, maybe even 10%. So you do the math. I mean, if money managers and institutions on the street are recommending to their high net worth individual clients a 1 or 2% allocation now, I think in 5 years that 1 or 2% is going to become 5 or 10. Hey, Marcat says, hi, Tom and everybody. What's going on? Good to see you, Marcat. Hope you're well. Zachary says, cool. Sarah G says, that's what mine said. But Bitcoin then, now a reconsideration. Israel says, El Salvador. Yeah, so El Salvador is actually mining Bitcoin with geothermal energy. Very interesting, very cool. XOXO Bob says, Wall Street skate bro, my brother was paid in Bitcoin in 2018 and he sold it because he didn't understand what it was worth, about $300 at the time. Well, in 2018, I don't think Bitcoin ever got as low as $300. I mean, maybe in 2016. I remember in 2016 Bitcoin trading for around like $300, but in 18, you know, I think the lowest it ever got was like maybe 3,500. But I definitely do understand your point. It's wild. Hey, Luke Williams is good point, Tom, about money managers trending towards more allocation to Bitcoin. Sal says, Tom, do you know that if some of us wanted to send you money and we are in another country, we can't I couldn't send you $10. Sal, you don't have to send me any money, no big deal. Just in case ETH says no love for alts. Not at the moment. The only thing that I own is Bitcoin and Ethereum, nothing else. So I'll probably miss out on an extreme amount of gains in that space, but just for me, my personal risk tolerance, I think this is good where I'm at. Alexandria says, good evening, Tom. What's going on? Nicole, good to see you. Senderon says, wow, the Empire State Building, good to see you. Joe C, how are you? Always good to see you, Joe C. Luke Williams says, when did you first purchase Bitcoin? I think right around maybe the 8,000 area. So on my Twitter, I actually posted a screenshot of one of my first buys of Bitcoin on Gemini. I forget what the price it was, but I've been pretty much adding. I just added this week, actually, in my newsletter. I added last week. Daniel G says, good night, Tom. Have a safe trip to Miami. See you soon, my friend. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. Patty C64 says, go to the Bowery. We were just down there. Marjan says, Tom, do you hold SEC licenses? So Series 7, none of that. No, I don't. I work in tech. I don't work in the finance industry. Square Bet says, New York City equals city of scaffolding. Trying to read the comments. SARINEH says, Tom, what do you think about the market reaction to the new variant? Yeah, so I think we talked about that today. You know, what I think is that in my eyes, I think that this is a normal correction and the dip will get bought. I think the main thing that the market is worried about is more lockdowns. And the way I think, the reason why I think this is because if we look at a lot of the reopening stocks, so the cruise lines, the airlines, all of these have been getting hit hard. And actually many of them are already back to their COVID lows, or pretty low, or pretty close to the COVID lows. So the market is telling us that there could be more lockdowns. Maybe not in the United States, but around the world. Japan just locked down, which I'm not in agreement with lockdowns, but you never know. But if we look at the main equity indices, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones, we're still above the 50-day moving average. So I think it would be healthy if all the major indices pull back to their 50-day. And that's still a couple percentage points away. But the 10-year yield in the entire yield curve today actually came down a little bit. So this is the new New York Public Library. So the yield curve came down a bit again today. The 10-year Treasury yield came down. So that tells me 9 times out of 10, the dip will probably be bought at some point. Sarah G says, for sure, once the world reopens, market will rise. Investors are waiting to buy up cruise stock. I would never touch any of the cruise stocks or the airlines ever in my life. Israel says, how long are you walking distance? Maybe we walked 5 miles or so. Nicole says, I thought Americans were big on tipping. Tom, where's your tip jar? You don't have to donate to the channel if you don't want. I don't really advertise tipping on the channel, but if you want to donate, if you want to drop something, that I appreciate it, but there's no obligation to it all. Bob says, where are you going in Miami? I'm here. I'm from there. So I just bought a place in North Miami Beach. Great Walk says, nowadays working in finance is crazy. Last year has been super crazy for me. Longest days ever, says Great Walk. I know. So Great Walk, do you work in like mergers and acquisitions, or what sort of department do you work in on the street? Jared Covey says, check out Chainlink. It ties real world data with Ethereum smart contracts. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard of it for sure. Appreciate that. I'll definitely check it out even more. Shannon Hall says, will schools close again? I'm not sure. I really have no idea. Nicole says, I just subscribed. Hey, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it. It was number 308 like. Thank you, Nicole. Sal Mendes says, you deserve tipping because unlike other live streamers, you try to read everyone's comments, says Sal.
I will.
I appreciate the kind words, Sal. As we are across the street from the beautiful New York Public Library, overlooking the Bank of America Tower and Salesforce Tower. And Salesforce actually just reported earnings today. Bob says, I grew up in North Miami Beach. That's so cool, man. My last place was Eastern Shores, East Biscayne Boulevard. Awesome, Bob. Yeah, I love it there so far. So a lot of my neighbors are very, very welcoming. I think the first week I moved in, I had the whole neighborhood knocking on my door, giving me food, giving me gift baskets. So a lot of cool people in North Miami Beach. I love my neighbors so far, so all good. I live in a majority Haitian population, so a lot of my neighbors are from Haiti, and a lot of my neighbors are from Cuba. So a lot of Cuban immigrants and Haitian immigrants. So I definitely did get a lot of Cuban food and Haitian food when I moved in. All very, very nice people. I'm very, very appreciative and thankful for my neighbors. Bob says, LOL, that's so Miami. Great Walk says, I work for a super huge company here in Argentina. I work in the finance and accounting department. Everything they ask me to do, I do. Awesome, Great Walk. Thank you for sharing that. Sarah G says, cybersecurity and tech services, long hours too. Basically on call 24/7. Email scams are so prevalent daily. Yes, so that is what you call ematet. So whenever you get those phishing emails, what the terminology in the cybersecurity world is called ematet attacks. And that are those pesky phishing emails. So Zscaler actually has a product that prevents those specific phishing emails. And I believe CrowdStrike does as well. Hey, Devin says, used to live in Pembroke Pines. Pembroke Pines is beautiful. YXPILA, thank you so much for the $1.49. I do appreciate it very, very much. Thank you everybody who has been supporting the channel. It does mean a lot to me. Nicole says, are there any Australians here? Nicole, there's a lot of Australians viewers of the channel. One of our moderators, Andrew Calhoun, is actually from Sydney. So our great moderator, Andrew Calhoun, is from Sydney, Australia. I want to show you guys this view over here. If you walk all the way down Library Way, you'll see a really nice view of the New York Public Library. So this is near the PricewaterhouseCoopers building, PwC. Hey, Danny's Auto Repair says, the Bronx is in the house. What's up, everybody from the Bronx? So I actually used to work right off the Grand Concourse a few years ago when I was doing some tech consulting with the home healthcare agency. So I took the train to the Bronx, right on the Grand Concourse there for a couple of years, very close to Bronx Science Academy, the high school. I think that's one of the best high schools in the city, Bronx Science. NYC Rich says, oh yeah, BX. Yeah, we got a lot of Bronx viewers tonight on the channel. Very cool. So here's the PwC building. So when you think about PwC, you could think about Deloitte, KPMG, and Ernst & Young. Marjan says, when you say tech consulting, you mean software sales? Yeah, so I was mainly on the telecom side and selling software through the channel partners. So we sold a ton of EVV software into the medical field. So EVV is electronic visit verification. So what we would do is we would do large-scale deployments of electronic visit verification software for home healthcare agencies, nursing homes, and hospitals. And then we would make sure the deployment would be HIPAA compliant with some sort of MDM or enterprise MDM. An MDM is an acronym for mobile device manager. So we sold a lot of Samsung Knox, CodeProof, Scale Fusion, things like that. And a little bit of SD-WAN I also sold a lot. So SD-WAN is a software-defined wide area network. So if you think about a traditional, back in the day, a lot of these big businesses would have traditional MPLS networks. And MPLS stands for multi-protocol label switching. But nowadays, where we have so many people working remotely, it's a lot easier to manage your WAN environment over software, especially when you have a workforce that is so decentralized. A lot of the times, SD-WAN is more efficient than traditional MPLS. Hey, this is Canada. This is Wall Street Walk, bro. What is up? This is Canada. Good to see you. Carlos is here. What's up, Carlos? Marjan Worldwide says Price Waterhouse was the company that keeps the winning envelopes for the Academy Awards. Jimmy Anderson says, what up, man? Cheers. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Right back at you, Jimmy Anderson. April says, nice. I work with EVV at work. Yeah, so a lot of the EVV software, if anybody works at a major home healthcare agency in New York City, I sold a lot of that software. So a lot of that infrastructure I sold. Kirby F says, no snow yet. Is it cold there? It's a little bit cold. It was actually snowing yesterday a little bit. Hello from Brazil, says Pedro. Laytha, how are you? Marjan Worldwide. Monica's here. Sarah G says that's a moneymaker, especially big scale. Yeah, so, the thing about software is it tends to have pretty good margins, right? The margins on software is usually a lot higher than it is on hardware, unless you are, at an actual OEM selling it directly from there. Nicole, good to see you. Hey, Jay, this is former Bronx resident too. What's up, Jay? Good to see you. Homer Sanchez is Grand Concourse, my favorite place. Sarah G says, I'm glad I don't really work in tech anymore. It's all good info to know, though. Yeah, a lot of people, it's funny, right? A lot of people that work on Wall Street, a lot of my friends that work in tech want to move to Wall Street. A lot of my banking, investment banking friends and hedge fund friends want to make the transition to tech. It's very strange, but Pedro says, what about legalization in New York? There are already coffee shops in the area. Could you clarify what you mean? Hey, Lady O is here. What's up, Lady O? Lady O is our great moderator from New Jersey. Good to see you, Lady O. So this is a view of the One Vanderbilt building, the brand new building with the amazing observation deck on top. And if you look straight ahead, you'll see the Grand Central Station. And right above the Grand Central Station, you'll see the Chrysler Building. And we're right here on Madison Avenue and East 42nd Street. Penelope says, Tom, sorry to hijack with Beatles, but it's all important to know how we communicate. Communication is key. I agree. Agreed, Penelope. Jimmy Anderson says, and cheers everyone else. Hope your holiday season is off to a good start. Thank you, Jimmy. Rosa says, good night, New York. Too much distraction. Very dangerous one day. Visit 149th. God bless. All right, thank you. Hey, Ruby Falcone is here. Says, beautiful. What's up, Ruby? We are walking, well, we're crossing Madison Avenue on 42nd, East 42nd Street. Leida says you love Grand Central Station. It's one of my favorite places in the city, for sure. Wow, look at the big Christmas wreath right on the front of Grand Central. Looks great. Bonnie Hudson says, hi, Tom. I just love your speaking voice. It is very soothing. Well, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much for saying that. Ibrahim Azam is here. What's up, Ibrahim? Hope you had a good day at school. Ibrahim is our moderator from California. Always good to see you, Ibrahim, and thank you for being a moderator on the channel. NYC Rich says, what kind of coat do you have on? It's getting kind of cold. I'm not really too sure what it's called, but I just have a regular winter coat on. Patty C64 says, in the evening, things are open here late. / due to COVID-19, things are a bit different in the areas. You can get a coffee at 4 in the morning. Yeah, if you walk into some bodegas, you could probably get a coffee 24/7, 365. Wow, everybody, check out the Christmas wreath right on top of the Pershing Square Bridge going into going into the Grand Central Station. And we also have a beautiful wreath right here on the front. Orlando Silva is here, says Chrysler Building is fantastic. Ken Kramer is wearing a Montclair. Liam the Englishman says, wow, the streets are so clean. Looking compared to downtown San Francisco, this is like luxury. So I am English. It's very interesting that you mention that because I recently just moved to Miami and I could not believe how unbelievably clean the streets were compared to New York. So if you think this is clean, you have to take a trip to Miami because everything is like so spotless. I couldn't even comprehend how a big city could be so clean. New York, I would actually consider a little bit dirty, but if San Francisco's worse than this, that's pretty scary, honestly. Shauna Rock says, who lives in One Park Avenue? I'm not sure. NYC Rich says, I love the city. It's really beautiful, very great. Having grown up here, says NYC Rich, ditto. Hey, Razzle Dazzle 786 says, hi Tom, I can second that. San Francisco is horrible. So Razzle Dazzle is our pal. Very smart, extremely smart, unbelievable. She's an MRI technologist from California, but I believe she's actually coming to New York City. So welcome to New York, Razzle Dazzle. Good to have you here. Hopefully you have a great time in New York. And this is one of the main entrances to the Grand Central Station. Thurman Merman says, get a hot dog. SK says, car robberies are rampant in San Francisco. I did see something like that on the news that said car robberies and break-ins are going gangbusters in San Francisco, especially for people who are traveling to San Francisco and renting vehicles, renting cars. They're actually telling tourists not to rent cars in San Francisco, which is quite bizarre. Lady O, I appreciate that. Thank you, Lady O. So this is the Hyatt Hotel. I'm not sure if they're ever going to open it again. I'm not too sure. Jonathan Richards, what's up? Says Grand Central Station is amazing too. Fun fact, Jackie Kennedy campaigned to keep it from being demolished in the early 1970s. Well, thank God, because I couldn't even imagine Grand Central not being there. Sabrina says Grand Central is so gorgeous you cannot leave anything with you in the vehicle. Why are they stealing Cadillac converters? I'm not sure. Atomic Skittles 678 says, do you like Boston? I do like Boston. I've never been there, but I do like it. James Bond says, if you don't have a good time in New York, something is wrong with you. I agree with that. So this is the Cipriani here. I actually used to work very close to the one on Wall Street. This is the Cipriani at 42nd Street. This is Cadillac converters have precious metals in them, so big money. Wow. With platinum and palladium. Did not know that. The Mighty Bull is here watching, listening, and thinking. Thank you, the Mighty Bull. SD Robs is catalytic converters have precious metals. Yeah, so I think copper is now at an all-time record high. I still think that there's some legs in this commodities bull market. I think that precious metals will continue to trend higher. And I also think that crude oil will be catching a bid here very, very shortly. Over the past couple days, if you guys want to track crude oil, the futures contract of crude is ticker symbol CL for the crude oil futures contracts. But crude has been getting absolutely hammered, clocked for the past couple days. But usually, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist here, but usually every time you have a big, massive hit to crude oil, there's usually an oil refinery fire or a missile strike or some airstrike on a big oil field. It always seems to happen like that. So watch out in the news for any sort of airstrike on some sort of oil field. So this is a view right outside of the Chrysler Building. We are standing right underneath the Chrysler Building here on Lexington Avenue and 42nd Street, East 42nd Street and Lexington Avenue. Looking right at the Chrysler Building as well as the Amazon Go store. So we'll cross the street. We'll see if we make it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we made it. Bob's beautiful building, so classy. Sabrina Fair says, I love the Chrysler Building. Nicole says, I love America. Our TV shows are 95% American sitcoms. Very cool. Great Walk says, any remote job from Argentina, I don't even care if they pay me $20 a day. Just want to learn to work for a United States company. So for tech jobs, if anybody's interested in a tech job, go to this website, cybercoders.com. At least I think that's what it is. but it is a recruiting website mainly for tech jobs. Jay says, I worked at the corner below where it says Hyatt. Well, Jay, this is a nice area, man. So here we are. This is the front doors of the Chrysler building right here. And I'll give you guys a view all the way up. We're standing right outside of the Chrysler building. Zachary says, Cybercoders is the worst. Try built-in NYC. So built-in NYC, Zachary, if you want to drop a link, feel free to drop a link so people could go there. I'd like to check it out myself. Another thing that's really helped me out with tech careers is an application you could download on your phone called Blind, B-L-I-N-D, the Blind app. And this is mainly for people who work in tech that are software engineers or enterprise software salespeople. And it's a community where we talk about on-target earnings, contract negotiation, and even sharing referral links. I've shared my company, when I worked at my previous company, I've shared my referral links with other people, and they've actually gotten hired. So here we are, Grand Central Terminal, everybody. Hey, Dallas is so cool. What's up, Dallas? Kin says, what about Upworks as well, looking for tech work? I'm not sure Upworks is a very good fit. Patty C64 says, then Florida / came back to New York City, nothing better, says Patty. Bonnie Hudson says, wow, what a nice building. Marcat says, wow. Yeah, so if anybody's interested in a career in tech, try to download the application Blind, B-L-I-N-D. That helped me out a lot. You always want to network with people who work in Silicon Valley in tech, especially if you want to get a good coding job or something like that at one of the big FANG companies like Facebook, Apple, Google. So you know what we'll do? We'll take a quick walk around inside, but just let me know if I'm buffering, everybody. We'll take a quick walk around Grand Central Terminal. Hey, iRevis is here. Says, hello, Tom. Hope you're doing well. So this is the side entrance of Grand Central Station. We usually never come in this way. Hey, Dallas says, this is cool. New York Live. What's up, Dallas? Good to see you. Carmen says, absolutely enjoy your live stream. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ruby Falcone says, Tom, what time is your train tonight? I think it's actually in 30 minutes. In about 30 minutes. Sal says, how do you learn coding? Well, there's actually a lot of resources now where you can learn to code for free online. If you want to learn like the very, very basics of learning a coding language, you could go to codeacademy.com, where there's a lot of free courses and things like that. But that's mainly for very fundamental basics of software engineering. But a lot of people sometimes go to coding boot camps too. It just depends about what language you want to learn. Do you want to learn Python, Java, C++, Node? I guess first, if you want to learn how to code, I think the first question would be, what are you trying to build? Are you trying to build an application? Are you trying to build a website? Because there's specific coding languages for specific tasks that you're trying to do. Are you trying to be an algorithmic trader? Are you trying to build a high-frequency trading bot? Like, what are you trying to do? Ibrahim says, Python is very easy and powerful language, in my opinion. I agree, there's a lot of things you could use Python for. All right. everybody, my phone is about to die. For some reason, I love seeing people running in the train station. There's something so iconic about it. I don't know why. But everybody, my phone is on 10% battery. So if you've enjoyed the live stream so far, as we've talked about cybersecurity earnings, we talked about Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell talking about the potential of raising interest rates and tapering. And we had a lot of good conversation about software sales, software engineering. So if you like the stream tonight, feel free to subscribe to the channel or leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Hey, Andrea says, take care, Tom, and be safe. I appreciate that, Andrea. Dallas says, train station on the way. Comic-Con Hunters is watching. AMD. What's up, Comic-Con? Good to see you as always. Just call me Bill, so stay safe and happy, y'all. Thank you, Bill. So I'll show everybody the ceiling. The Mighty Bull says, look at the ceiling. Yes, we got to find the Mighty Bull for the Mighty Bull. Well, I don't think the Mighty Bull is here. Is the Mighty Bull here? Dallas says, have you been to the Empire State Building this trip? We go to the Empire State Building a lot. So I'm from New York. But I just moved down to Florida. So I've been to the Empire State Building a lot of times. So I think I've said it before, and I think the majority of people know this already. But there's a little fun fact about Grand Central Station, that if you look to the very top left-hand side of your screen, you'll actually be able to see the original color of the ceiling of Grand Central Station. So when Grand Central was going under renovations, the ceiling was totally black, and that was mainly due to all the dust from the tar of the cigarette and the cigar smoke. But they've by and large cleaned off the entire ceiling. But if you look at this teeny tiny square here, this little black patch right here, that's actually the original ceiling color, and it's actually a strip of cigarette tar from cigarettes and tobacco and things like that from when you were allowed to smoke in Grand Central Station. So here's a more zoomed out view, but the view isn't going to be as clean, but this is a zoomed out view. But yeah, so that little patch is all cigarette tar. So can you imagine looking up and having the entire ceiling being totally black for disgusting cigarette tar? Woodstock says, hey, what's up from Brazil? Love your voice and your content. Would you recommend Kotlin instead of Java for beginners? Well, I think it just depends on what you want to learn, right? I mean, what is like the use case of what you want to do? But I think the easiest language to learn by and large is Python. I think Python is the easiest language to learn. I'm not a full stack software engineer by any means. I mean, I could definitely work my way around pretty much all the coding languages, but I'm no expert. But I'm probably the most skilled in Python. But I'm definitely not advanced by any means. I could build basic things and do basic functions, but definitely not super skilled by any means. So JavaScript was actually created by Brendan Eich. Brendan Ike, and I believe now he's involved with some sort of cryptocurrency project called Basic Attention Token. So Brendan Ike with Basic Attention Token and the Brave browser, I'm not sure if anybody's heard of it, but it's like a web browser that blocks advertisements and things like that. So the idea is that he believes you should be getting paid to see advertising as opposed to going on, let's say going on YouTube and Facebook and getting hammered with advertisements. If you use the Brave browser and you opt in to view advertisements, you can actually accrue some sort of cryptocurrency called Basic Attention Token and actually be paid for your time of viewing advertisements. So I think it's a pretty decently cool concept, but I believe Brendan Ike is one of the leaders of the Basic Attention Token project, and he is the creator of JavaScript as well. Brandy says, thanks for the stream, Tom. No problem, Brandy. Dallas, good to see you as always, Dallas. Hey, Marjan Worldwide says, as a native New Yorker, I say you're doing a great job. Your channel is about to catch fire. Here's my investment towards a prosperous 2022 for you. Peace. Hey, Marjan Worldwide. I appreciate that very much, man. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here and participating in the streams. Everybody here at the Wall Street Scapegoat channel appreciates you very, very much. So thank you for being here. Priscilla says, another wonderful live stream. Have a good night. Thank you, Priscilla. Penelope says, hearing tar too. Tom, coal dust on everything. I know. Yeah, everybody's saying, oh my God, beautiful. Hey, Martin Lucas is here. Says, hello, Tom. There's nothing like Christmas decorations in New York City. I agree. So everybody, I'll close my mouth now and we'll do one walk around the, I was about to say the Empire State Building. We'll do one walk around, an entire walk around Grand Central Station. And we will sort of do an ASMR, I guess if it's called. So I'll quit talking. I know I talk too much on the channel, but I'll stop now and we'll walk around. The Mighty Bull says, thank you, I love seeing the bull. Hey, Mighty Bull, thank you for being here. So let's see if we can get the Mighty Bull for the Mighty Bull one more time. So this is for the Mighty Bull right here. So feel free to grab a screenshot, the Mighty Bull. Hey, Southern Sass is glad I found you, Tom. Interesting content. Appreciate that, Southern Sass. So this is the ceiling of the Grand Central Station. Dallas says, I'm subscribing. Glad to see people filming around New York. Yeah, so everybody, we mainly film around New York and Miami. So we will be back and forth between New York City and Miami. And I am flying back to Southern Florida tomorrow, just to let you know. But I will be back. It's so crazy. December is going to be crazy because I have to take a lot of clients out to holiday parties and things like that. So I'm actually going to be right back in New York City in like 5 days because I have a Christmas party to go to in Central Park. Ruby Falcone says, you don't talk too much, you are engaging and much appreciated. Thank you, Ruby. Sarah G says, right next to Orion. Sally says, your streams are always enjoyable, Tom. Thank you, Sally. Somebody says, what celebrities have you met on the street? I don't think I've ever met celebrities, but I used to work right next to Seinfeld's garage on 83rd Street. All right, everybody. So we'll start the walk. We'll do one lap around and then we'll head out. So I'll stop talking now.
Attention, need of my customers. The 11:27 train to New Haven, connection to Danbury and Keating will be departing from track 27 on the
Yeah, he's like, you know.
You know what, everybody? I think we do have to end it because I'm on 2% battery. So I think we'll end it now. But everybody, I appreciate you joining the channel. I appreciate you joining the stream tonight. Be safe, stay optimistic as always. It's the number one most important thing. Stay optimistic. I may not see everybody tomorrow because I will be traveling. So if I don't see you, have a great Wednesday. Have a good middle of the week. We will see you all in the next one. So I guess we'll end it with the one and only mighty bull at the ceiling. Ibrahim, thank you. Square Bet, all the moderators, as always, thank you. I appreciate it. Lady O, Sunshine After Rain, great walk. Ibrahim Azam, Exo Bob says, I just subbed. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. David says, my girlfriend just walked past you, Tom. Awesome, dude. Well, hopefully your girlfriend has a great day. So everybody, have a good night. And most importantly, have a good night to the mighty bull, because there is always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. And I'll see you guys in Miami tomorrow.